Welcome to the Scoop World Order. We got the game day edition today, man. It's a big day. Opening day for the Ohio State Buckeyes at the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Podrick, Nevadabuck with me. Nevada, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. Got up early this morning, and can't wait for tonight. It's gonna be a long day waiting for tonight, but I can't wait.
Yeah, it's fun kicking off on a Thursday. Thursday's always been my favorite day of the week just because it's kind of the kickoff to the weekend. And there's been a move to have NFL football on Thursdays, and there's usually a couple good college games. And I love Ohio State kicking off on a Thursday and getting an extra 2 days to prep for Oregon, which is something that I think is something that's very underrated, and it's going to be a big advantage for us. Give me a little bit about your what you wanted to talk about my game day rituals on a night game. What are yours as a fan? I'm just curious because I mean a lot of our fans, I don't think we always have this big debate on noon games, 3:30 games, 8 o'clock games, and some people, most people love night games, but there's some people that they just get so anxious and they get so much anxiety that it's really tough. And what do you do when you got to kill 9 hours or so before kickoff?
Well, the worst thing for me is I know I'm not playing in the game, but I get so worked up that I can't eat, and so the longer it goes, that I can't eat, and then I get that I'm hungry, but then I'm not really hungry because I'm so nervous for the game. So yeah, that's definitely one of my game day things is I won't eat for the game. So I'll starve all day today, and when they hopefully we start laying it on Minnesota about the third and fourth quarter, then I can relax and have a nice big dinner or something like that. But yeah, it's amazing how much people get wrapped up in these things, and I'm right there with them. And then when you combine that with our job responsibilities, so I'm trying to mine for information all the way up to kickoff to see if late minute scratches or additions or things that are going on. So game days are hectic on my end for sure. And yeah, like I said, I it's not just the players that go through the rituals; it's the fans and the insiders as well.
Yeah, I don't. My anxiety levels aren't quite as high as obviously when I played, but they're there because I've got to do my thing with ABC6 tonight on the Football Fever. I'm hosting a watch party at Gallup Park, and then I got to go back to the Football Fever for the post game show. So it is a long work day today for the Scoop, and I'll be on the Scoop, the whole time too. I'll be at the restaurant on my iPad, like I normally am, just cruising along in the game threads. But yeah, it's funny you talk about like kind of the anxiousness and the anxiety. Something that gave me a bunch of anxiety recently is like we had our movie premiere on Monday, man, and I was a basket case. And I didn't think in a million years I'd be nervous about a movie, but when we've got our names on it and you haven't seen the product and you're debuting it 200 people or so from the site, like I was really nervous about that. It turned out great, and we got a nice ovation at the end. And it was a great night for the Scoop and Scoop family, and we had a nice dinner beforehand. We had a nice night afterwards. It was really a good day. So, yeah, I hate thinking about what these kids are going through right now for a night game because it's the most miserable experience in the world. Like, there's nothing worse than a road night game because they're obviously they're fun to play and the environment's great, but these kids have to sit in a hotel all day long. And it's like they've got to go through like 2 extra walkthroughs. They get up early. They always make a big stink about them, running down there, and they have like the little mosh pit they run through when they come off the elevator. And then they take them through a walkthrough. They feed them breakfast, take them through a walkthrough, give them like 2 hours off or so, 2.5 hours off, where they just kind of go chill in their rooms. Then they have another walkthrough. Then they have pregame meal, and then they're off at the stadium. This is going to be around a 7-ish kick for them because it's a central time game. So it's a little bit earlier than an 8 o'clock East Coast kick would be. But yeah, I remember sitting in the hotels during these night games, and they're just completely awful to deal with. And then the kids don't get back until 3 or 4 in the morning, and it sucks, man.
Yeah,
so we'll move into the game.
I got a question for you on that. Now, see, in hockey, I've traveled around the world with hockey teams, and hockey teams, they'll have their pregame meal like at noon, and then they'll go back to the rooms and they'll sleep, and that's they'll go back and say, are you sleeping anytime during the day, or sleep not part of the equation?
That is the toughest part to night games, is you have to figure out how much do you want to try to nap versus how groggy do you want to be versus, because the difference between like, I feel like hockey and basketball is, I talked to Michael Red about that when he was playing with the Bucks. I was like, what did you do all day? When he had every game, is it, 7:30 at night? He's like, sleep all day. Like when you're on the road, I was like, what'd you do? Did you like go walk around? Nope, sleep. And for football, for some reason, since I think it's because we only play so few games, we only play, 12 to 15 games a year in college football, that the coaches are like paranoid about the kids getting too tired or too groggy. So that's why they make them get up. Like Urban had this thing where it was like, when they had like a 2.5 hour or 3 hour break for a road night game, they had to like get up in the middle of that and come get a peanut butter and jelly from the little team snack room that we had set up. Like, and it was kind of wild, but I mean, I guess you just, there's some coaches that psychologically and physically, they don't want you to take a 3 hour nap in the middle of the day, and then wake up and you're not really with it, and I mean, obviously it doesn't affect basketball players and hockey players, because I feel like, and even baseball players, I feel like that's what a lot of those guys do when they've got all day to kill. I mean, they're not going to go, sightseeing all day. I mean, they might, if it's the first time in the city, but if they've been to a city for a million times, they just chill in their room and watch Netflix or whatever. So that was always the hardest part with the night game, is just debating, should I try to go to sleep? Should I stay up and watch TV? Like, and it sounds like a stupid debate. It's like, oh yeah, people do that every weekend when they're laying on their couch. But I don't know, when you've got to do a physical activity at a high level at the end of the day at 8 o'clock, like, you got to figure out, the right way to pace your body. And I would always try to get like an hour of sleep and lay there. But it's hard if you have a roommate that doesn't sleep and he wants to watch TV, and you're not really going to be able to fall asleep if the TV's blaring and whatever. So that's a great question. That's something I think people don't really think about. And again, that's why, I mean, you hate noon games, but man, when I was a player, you get up and you're ready to rock. It's time to go. I mean, I feel like most people are productive, around the middle of the day. You get up, most people work in the middle of the day. I mean, it just was the best, because you get out of bed and you're going to the stadium and you're playing the game, and then you knock it out. And then, the period after the game until the next day's meeting is like your complete time off. So, if you have a night game, you have no time off, essentially, and it's even worse when you're a coach. Like if you're a coach, every coach loves noon games, because you get done at 4 o'clock and you get to go hang out with your family and actually see your family for a night, as opposed to, a night game where you don't really get to see your family. You're just sitting in the hotel and watching more film and, having your nerves be racked for whatever reason. And that's why, like, I always love noon games. I think the players like noon games, coaches like noon games, the fans hate noon games, but this is the facts of life at this point.
Well, I see. I don't mind. I think 3:30 is a nice compromise, and my big concern has always been that recruits have a chance to get in after playing on Friday night. And I just think for recruits that are coming from out of state, it's difficult. It's almost impossible to get up from Florida up there for a game, unless you're flying like a red eye or something like that. Same thing from the West Coast. And so I think 3:30 is a nice compromise, because that gives you a chance to see the game. So it gives you a chance to have some sort of semblance of a dinner or eating out afterwards, and things like that. So I'll settle for 3:30. You can play your noon games there against Miami Tech or whoever you're playing against. And 3:30, that semi big game that you played in, that 06 game, the 1 versus 2, that was kind of big. That was a 3:30 game, and that was kind of fun, wasn't it?
Oh, that was great, because it was like a night game. It was November, and the sun went down in the second quarter, so it was basically like a night game by the time the game was over. I mean, I don't like. I never minded 3:30 games. I just, I think honestly, if I know people would hate that, but I wish that the Michigan game was always played at 3:30. I think noon's kind of a little too early for the game, but I know that's 100 years of tradition, and people are going to probably firebomb me for saying that. But 3:30 is like the perfect time to play the game, and I don't think the game suffered at all by it. The traditionalists were upset that it got moved to 3:30 for the 1 versus 2 game, but that was the most epic one we've ever had. And I think that the fact that it was nighttime by the second quarter and under the lights and everything's at stake, I think that didn't hurt the atmosphere. And I agree with you on the recruiting thing, especially for out-of-state recruits. It's tough. I mean, it's impossible really for kids to be able to get up there. Now, I think there's a sliding scale of how cool is your high school coach with you taking a visit in season, because there's some coaches where you don't even have to ask, it's all good, and there's some coaches where it's not like that. It's literally the opposite. It's you got to watch film on Saturday and you're not going to make it to the game anyway. So that's always kind of a trepidation. So the way I look at it is they always have the Michigan game in November if it's a home game or senior day, and most of the schools are done in late November. Unless they're deep in the playoffs, their seasons are over and they can get up for those games. So, but I know what you're saying, like for Oregon and Notre Dame and those, like, I hope to God Notre Dame's a night game. I hope it's not a noon game. Big noon Notre Dame kickoff would be terrible. Going into tonight, what do you on the offensive side of the ball, what are you looking for Ohio State to attempt to do and manage to do versus Minnesota?
Well, I think I always, in these games, it's hard for me as being a fan. Now you're an All-American, you've been a coach, you kind of watch the game maybe differently than the average person. For me, as just an average fan, I try to pick out little battles and try to see, are we winning these battles or not? And that'll kind of tell me the story of how we're doing in the game. And, for me, what I'm going to be watching initially is, how's the battle between the Minnesota offensive line and our defensive line going? Are we getting blown off the ball? Are we able to stand them up? Are we getting penetration? What's going on with, watch that little battle from the very beginning. I think, on the outside, what type of coverage are we playing? Are we playing press man? Are we giving them big steps? And, how much respect are we giving to their wide receivers? Are we giving them no respect? How many linebackers are we playing? What's going on over there? So that's what I'm going to be watching on defense. And, offensively, I'm just not worried. I'm just telling you, I'm not worried. Minnesota is slow. They're slow, and you can't hide slow. And when you're slow, our guys are fast, and our guys are going to get behind them. So I'm looking for big plays. I hope we just come out crisp. Got to always take care of the ball. Don't have inopportune penalties. Don't do some silly things like that. But if we can just come out and kind of get into a little rhythm, Stroud gets a couple of easy completions, early on, and we can kind of get going. I think this game could get out of hand early. I think I'm the one who's predicting the widest spread of all the Buckeye Scoop staff members. So I'm hoping Ohio State jumps on them early and often. I think they will. What
you predict for your score?
I think I had 48-17. I think is what I had.
Yeah, I did 42-21. I just think that offensively they've got to take the shackles off CJ Stroud early. Don't let him be a game manager, throw the ball deep. These defensive backs haven't seen anything like our wide receivers. So, don't give them time to adjust, throw it over their heads, get some early scores, get Minnesota in a tough situation where they don't want to be. They want to be close to being able to run the ball. If they get down by 3 scores, they have to throw the ball. And they don't have the horses. They shouldn't have the horses to throw it on us. Now, everybody threw it on us last year, so hopefully that'll be amended this year. But it's going to be the thing I'm just fascinated by is the running back rotation, because I love Trey Henderson to death. I think that he's the best player maybe on the entire roster. But, Tony Alford played Master Teague over Trey Sermon last year. So it's something that's bears watching. If he has a strict loyalty to Mine Williams and Master Teague instead of the kid that's the phenom and the franchise, then it's going to be interesting, But, does Trey Henderson get in there and take opportunities where he takes 150 yards to the house? And it's just so apparent that he's so much more talented, like Trey Sermon did last year, that he has to be the guy. Like there's no more facade, there's no more seniority, there's no more he's a great kid. It's this is pure talent at this point. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage that with Trey Henderson. I think defensively, it's going to be interesting to see how our two ends hold up versus their humongous tackles. Their one tackle is literally 390 pounds. He's bigger than Dwan. And that's going to be, Javonte Jean-Baptiste isn't the biggest cat in the world. Tyreek Smith, and these guys are 250. Zach Harrison's 250. I mean, you got a guy who's 140 pounds heavier than you. And if you're PJ Fleck in Minnesota, you have to come off the ball with those fast, speedy pass rushers. You can't just let them sit back and get into passing situations where they can pass rush around your bigger, slower offensive linemen. So that'll be really intriguing. I'm excited to see CJ Stroud's debut. I'm excited to see who he has chemistry with. I'm excited to see how much we go 2 tight ends. Like I think that there could be a pretty big role for Cade Stover this year as the blocking tight end. Luke Farrell was a 5th-round pick, just made the Jaguars, and I think Cade's every bit as good as his, if not better. So it'll be interesting to see how much Ryan Day does the 2 tight end thing, because he loves that. Urban was not a 2 tight end guy, but Ryan really loves his 2 tight end under center stuff. So that'll be fascinating. So to wrap this, what else do you got for me, Nevada? We got that was a pretty good dissertation, but what else do you got for me for tonight's game against the Gophers?
Well, I think my Minnesota guys, my Minnesota insiders are telling. I mean, obviously the obvious things, we all know that Minnesota's going to pull out the kitchen sink in terms of what they're doing. So I definitely am expecting a full cadre of trick plays and every type of special circumstance that you can imagine. I think they'll try to do. But I think Minnesota, though, I think offensively they're going to break tendency. I think they're going to come out and try to throw it against us and not try to run it. And I think that'll be interesting to see how Ohio State responds to that, because I think Ohio State's preparing for a running war, and I think Minnesota's going to try to come out and throw it. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, in the early going, because I think people got a little idea that maybe you can move the ball through the air against Ohio State last year, and we had some issues on the back end. This is a big test for Kerry Combs to see if he's been able to kind of lock that stuff down, change things around. This is not it's not a particularly experienced or particularly talented Minnesota group of wide receivers. So if we're having trouble controlling them, then it may make for some challenging games down the road. But I think Minnesota may actually come out and start throwing the ball, a la Ohio State in the 2008 Rose Bowl with Pryor, where everybody expected them to run. They came out throwing. I think we may see more Gophers in the air than we might expect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't try it, given how awful our secondary was last year. And I'll tell you what, I mean, if this Minnesota team with basically no returning, production coming back and throw it on us, and we got to figure that out quick. I mean, it'll be a bad day if these guys can throw it on us, because they lost Rashad Bateman, 1st-round pick, who was a superstar. They had 2 really good receivers last year, and they're gone, and they're young. Their top guy's hurt potentially, or he's going to be dinged up, and we've got talented guys in the back end. Like, these guys are all heralded recruits between Josh Proctor, Lathan Ransom, Sevin Banks, Ryan Watts, and we've got 10 guys that can play in the back end. Craig Young, if he's back playing strong safety, or if he's playing bullet. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how much of their base defense, such as the 4-2, with the bullet, versus the nickel, where it's not the bullet, it's the smaller guy, it's the Marcus Williamson type instead of the Lathan Ransom type, or the Craig Young type. The bullet. It's going to be real fascinating to see how much we're actually in base defense, which normally we're never in. We're normally always in nickel, just because most teams are spread against us. But Minnesota's going to be a little bit less spread, a little bit more of a power football team. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think we're going to see a 3rd linebacker, but I think we'll see a bigger bullet or nickel, so to speak. So that'll be fascinating, man. Well, I'm excited for this one. This is going to be a big one. The game threads are going to be going crazy. Buckeye Scoop's going crazy. We hired Kevin Noon. He's brought a ton of great stuff from Rivals. He brought a bunch of new subscribers from Rivals. Everything's been outstanding. This has been one of the biggest weeks in the history of the Scoop. So there's never been a better time to join the Scoop than opening day, kickoff. There's going to be new breaking inside information all the way up until when the foot hits the ball tonight. So join Buckeye Scoop. If you like this video, please give us a like, please give us a subscribe, and please leave us some comments. That really helps our YouTube algorithms, and it's one of the easiest things you can do to help Buckeye Scoop. So Scoop family, we appreciate you. We will see you on the message boards.